Well, Australia's unemployment rate has risen to 3.7% for July, with the number of jobless Aussies increasing by 36,000, and it's only expected to get worse, with the RBA predicting the rate will rise to 4.5% by the end of 2024. Macrobusiness co-founder Leith Van Onselen joins me now. Leith, what is the reason for this increase in unemployment? I suspect it's got something to do with rising interest rates, which is putting extreme pressure, particularly on small business at the moment, and they just simply can't afford to employ more people.
Yeah, well, it's basically a twofold factor. I mean, first of all, as you said, interest rates have risen, and what that's doing is it's obviously slowing demand across the economy. But the other factor that's not well recognised is that we've actually had record labour supply growth from the Albanese government's record Big Australia immigration policy. So effectively, we're growing the labour supply so quickly that the economy needs to produce a record around 35,000 jobs per month just for the unemployment rate to stay constant. And this is record labour supply growth. We've never seen as many people come into the country at one time. And what it means is that the economy isn't able to grow. The demand for jobs isn't high enough to soak up all those additional workers coming in. So effectively what we're going to get over the next 12 months is we're going to have obviously huge numbers of people coming in, and the jobs growth just isn't going to be there to soak them all up. And that means unemployment's going to rise, and that's going to also put downward pressure on wages. It's obviously really bad news for if you're a worker, because you're obviously going to get lower wage growth, and if you're unemployed, you're going to struggle to get a job. But the one shining light is if you're a mortgage holder, it means that interest rates, are almost certain to stay on hold.
Yeah, but doesn't it prove the whole thing is a massive Ponzi scheme, though? Because we're told we have to import all these people from overseas to fill all these jobs that can't be filled. Then we import all the people, and then we realise we've imported too many and there aren't enough jobs for them.
Yeah, it is 100%. It's tail wagging the dog economics. And basically Australia's done this for about 20 years. Now, I'll tell you this. About 20 years ago, the Howard government, conducted a parliamentary inquiry into skills, and it included the Business Council and all the usual players, the Australian Industry Group, etc. They all said that Australia faced a skills shortage and that we needed to import loads of skilled migrants to solve this shortage. Well, guess what? 20 years later, Australia's grown by about 6 million people, and we've still got the skills shortages. Now, the reason for that is because we brought in a whole bunch of people that often weren't skilled. We had all these labour mismatches. So they came over as engineers and ended up driving Ubers. And at the same time, whenever you bring someone in to solve one problem, you often create another. So, for example, we could bring in 1 million builders to solve the housing shortage, but then that's going to increase pressure on hospitals, yes, on schools and all these other areas. So then you've got to bring people in to solve that problem, and then you end up back with a shortage of builders. So it's this whole sort of vicious cycle, tail wagging the dog Ponzi scheme.
It kind of goes on forever, doesn't it? And as you say, I mean, there are some industries that are still struggling for workers. Retail, construction are among them. If we can't get it right about who we get into the country, why are we even doing it in the first place? I mean, are we not actually creating a worse situation for ourselves by importing people who aren't suited to the jobs who need to be filled, because it simply adds more people to the base of the population without fixing the problem? In fact, it makes it worse. Yeah,
100%. Look. There's basically three principal groups that push this Big Australia policy. So obviously you've got big business. Immigration for them is a no-brainer, because basically you bring people in, you increase your demand, and you also lower wages. So you lower the wage cost, which means more profits. Similar goes, you've got big property, who's the other group. And the new player in the block, the relatively new, is obviously the universities. So the universities love getting all the foreign students in. They pay higher fees, and because of that, they get to cream it there. The problem is these groups effectively privatise the gains from immigration, and the costs are socialised on the rest of us through lower standard of living, because we've got to compete for everything. Everything gets congested. Rather than being able to buy a house, you've got to live in a shoebox apartment, et cetera, et cetera. So it is basically this one ginormous Ponzi scheme, which is basically designed to benefit a certain segment of society, and they tend to be the 1%ers.
And you and I are living in it. Leith Van Onselen, thank you so much for your time.